Hello guys, welcome to the C++ tutorial series. In this video, we will learn about constructors in C++. My name is Kafui and welcome to my channel multi.dev. Please subscribe and like to help the channel grow and turn on the bell notification icon to get notified whenever I release a content on the channel. With that said, let's dive in. In C++, a constructor is a member function that has the same name as the class. So I'll just go ahead and then declare or define a class called hello world, a funny class, then initialize two integers or declare two integers. Now, in order to declare a class in C++, you have to write the name of what? The class. So I'll just go ahead and write the name of the class followed by what? Parentheses. And I'll terminate my code. With this, I have what? Declared a constructor in C++. And the purpose of a constructor is to initialize an object of what? A class. So that is, a constructor creates an object and then it sets the value to that data members. So when we create an object of a class, the code in the constructor runs first. So what this simply means is that when I come down here in my main function and then initialize or create an instance of this class, I'll just give it an initial value. I'll just create an instance called what? O. We know that it's an object, or maybe obj. Yes, I think obj is good. So obj. Now, the reason why it is giving me this red underline error is because by default, the member functions and then the member fields in a class is what? Private. So in order to make them accessible out of the class, I have to bring what? The public specifier to say that the member fields and then the member functions are what? They are public and therefore they can be accessed out of what? The class. Then with that, we are good to go. So whenever we create an instance of this class, the hello world class, the constructor will be executed first. So I can just go ahead and then in the constructor body, I'll just std cout and say constructor invoked, and let's see what happens. So I'll just go ahead and run my code with shift plus F10, and hopefully we see constructor invoked. So whenever we create an instance of the class, the constructor will be called. So I'll just go ahead and create another instance and say obj1 and then run it again. Hopefully we see constructor invoked and then constructor invoked again. Let me just print this on separate lines on the next line, on a new line, and run my code. We will see constructor invoked twice in the console. Yes, so this is it. Constructor invoked, constructor invoked. So whenever we create any instance of this hello world class, the constructor will be what? Invoked, or it will be called for us. Now, one way we can define the constructor is out of the class, and it goes like this. So in the class, I will declare the constructor, and then out of the class, I can define the constructor by writing the name of the class and then followed by what? The name of the constructor, followed by parentheses, and then in curly braces, that's when I can put what? The body of the constructor, and I'll just go ahead and then bring cout constructor. Oh, I'm not writing that properly. Constructor invoked, and then terminate it and then save my code. So what I did was, out of the class, in the class I just declared my constructor, and then out of the class I have defined my constructor using the scope resolution operator. I'm accessing the class, I'm accessing the constructor, and then I'm defining it out here. And we can do that for what? A function. So I will just bring a random function, say print message. Our print message function doesn't return anything. I'll declare it in the class, and then out of the class I can come ahead and say void hello world. Then using the scope resolution operator, I can access the print message function, and then I can go ahead and then what? Define it by writing a piece of code here. And just say cout hello world, and then terminate it. So when I save this code, since this I have made this one public, so it is accessible out of the class, I can come ahead and then write the name of the instance or the object, and then using the dot operator or operation, I can call this one method or function. And when I run my code, hopefully we see constructor invoked, and secondarily we see hello world. I think I have to add some space here so that to print it on a new line. So using this, so when I run my code again, we see constructor invoke first, and then finally we see hello world outputted in the console. So we can call this method, these functions on instances that we create in our class. So when I create another instance of the class, this print message function is accessible to it because I have made it what public. Now constructors can take a list of parameters, so I can go ahead, and mind you, in C++ we can have multiple what constructors. So this one will take an integer of, let's say, x value, and then another integer of what y value, and then I'll terminate it. So I've what declared I've declared this constructor. Let me just comment this one out so that we focus on this one. I've declared this constructor. I can come down here, so just come and then comment this one out too as well. Then come down here and say hello world, and then using the scope resolution operator, I will access the constructor with its x and y value. Okay, I didn't bring the data type here, sorry. Good. So say y value, and then I can instantiate the values over here. So I will just say x is equal to what x value. I'm initializing these values, and then finally y is equal to what y value. So we can still use, or better still, we can still use the list initialization, saying x to x value, and then terminate this, and then say y to y value. So whatever way you want to use, you could go with that. So I'll just go with the assignment. So I've done this one, comment it out. Good. Now we are good to go. So whenever we call this class over here, or we create an instance of it, we have to what pass in what the value. So I can go ahead and say 10 and then 30. So I'm just passing in random integers over here, and then when we invoke or when we run this code, the constructor will be invoked, and then these values will be what initialized to their appropriate values. So I can come down here, comment this one out, come down here and say our object, and then I'll use the dot operator and then access the x value, comment it, or let me just std cout the object dot x value, then with space, and then finally the object dot what y values, and terminate it. And when I run my code, we get what 10 and what 30. So the constructor will be run, the constructor will be invoked for us, and then we see what, and then it will assign the necessary values to what their appropriate values. So you can even see that the text editor is giving us this hint over here that this is the x value and then this is the y value. Let me just write this properly for consistency. So this is the x value and then this is the y value. So this is how we can write a constructor with what a list of parameters. And now one way we can initialize a constructor in C++ is using the member initialization. And then the member initialization goes like this. I'll just comment this out. So we have this this constructor declared over here. So in order to initialize it, you still write the name of the class using the scope resolution operator, the name of the constructor, hello. I'll not use the autocomplete. Let me type it out for you to see. Hello world. In the parentheses, we have the int x value, then comma, we have another integer y value, and then the member initialization goes like this. We use colon and then we initialize what? The values. So the x value, which is over here in the code, we initialize it to, where am I? Come here. So we initialize it to the x value, and then we use comma. Then the y value, we initialize it to what? The y value, and then we can put something in the constructor body. So I'll just std cout again and say constructor invoked, and then print it on another line, and then save my code. So this is all we call what? The member initialization. So what I did was what? I wrote the name of the class. Using the scope resolution operator, I'm able to access the constructor and then with its parameters, and then I'm using this colon over here to initialize what? The values. So the x value is what? The x value. The y value is what? The y value. So this is what we call what? Member initialization. And then when I run my code, hopefully we get the constructor invoked first. Mind you, the constructor will be called whenever we create an instance of what? The class, and then the values are what? Initialized. So that is it about constructor. The next thing I want us to look at is called what? Constructors. A constructor is a member function that gets invoked or called when an object is what? Destroyed. So the syntax for a constructor goes like this. So I'll just come here. I'll come to the code in the class. Before we write a constructor, we still have to write the name of the class followed by parentheses. But in order to make it different from the constructor, the constructor is prefixed with what? A tilde symbol. So when I bring the tilde symbol over here, it denotes that what? This is what? A constructor. So this is a constructor, and then in the constructor body, I can just std cout and say in the constructor, and then terminate this. So this in C++, this is the constructor, and then this is the constructor. And unlike the constructor whereby we can have multiple constructors, the constructor doesn't take a list of parameters, and then we cannot have multiple what? Constructors. So when I go ahead and then run my code, you see that our code runs successfully, and then the values are assigned, and then you see that in the constructor, let me just put this, let me just comment this out quickly, or better still, just put it on a new line, create a new line. So go ahead and run my code. So you see our values get assigned, and then finally we have what? In the constructor. So first we have in the constructor invoked, then we have the values assigned, and then since this object is now out of scope, we have what? The constructor will be what? Executed or will be called. So the constructor doesn't take a parameter, and we can only have one constructor per what? Class. So that is it. That is all for this video. Please, if you have any question, put them in the comment for discussion. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.